Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our TTRPG interview show, Reckless to Talk. I am your host, DM Nathan. Taking back my rightful place on the other side of the microphone this week, and boy, what a good week it is. I got to sit down with TTRPG storyteller, host, game runner, editor, and general quality person, Kerri Smith. As of the release of this episode, her first short-form TTRPG show, Deadlands, The Crossroads, has aired in full, spanning 14 episodes of Western eldritch horror goodness. Deadlands is notable not just for Kerri's quality storytelling and immersive setting, but the literal dozens of players who took part in it over its run. Kerri is an absolute and utter delight of a person and incredible game runner and one of my favorite folks in our corner of the TTRPG world. We talk about getting into gaming, storytelling versus telling a story, her love of horror, and what's next for her. And you will honestly, in short, just really love this one. I am sure of it. So without any further ado, here is my interview with Kerri. Go watch Deadlands after you listen to this. See you next week. Hello there, Kerri.
Hey.
Hi, how are you today?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I will attempt to meet you at the bar of fantastic because I too am super excited to be chatting and hanging out with you today. We have been in pseudo contact for a long time about both this interview and just generally. And when it finally all came together, I have been just like counting down the days for it to finally come through. And today is the day. And what a blessed day it is.
Yeah, we said we were going to have coffee together one morning, and now it's happening.
True.
So.
That's true. We are recording over coffee, even though it was more of a just like it happens to be during a coffee consuming period in our day. But I think it still counts, hopefully.
I think so.
Kerri, I have already introduced you a little bit to our dear listeners, but could you please introduce yourself again, your name, your pronouns, give the people a bit of a taste as to what you're doing in the TTRPG space.
I am Kerri Smith. I'm more known as Kerri Smith 2012 on most of my social media. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a storyteller. I'm currently working on Deadlands, The Crossroads.
Storyteller, that is a good TTRPG business card descriptor. Of like, I'm a storyteller. And I know that's like part in some systems, but like, that's a powerful way to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I just feel like it fits my style a little bit better than Dungeon Master, Game Master.
Yes. that totally makes sense. Why do you identify with that more than any of the other various handles?
I feel like Dungeon Master and Game Master, it's just so mechanic based or like combat based. Like your Dungeon Master, you're gonna run some, dungeon delves, you're gonna do some combat, and I am far more story based than I am like I focus on stories and characters, and I want the players to tell the story. So we're like a collaborative storytelling group.
Yeah, I love that. I think that already I think is a very telling perspective on who you are and what kind of games you like to run, and that certainly has been my experience in watching Deadlands, The Crossroads, and talking to people who have been in it and have played with you. So, but before we get into your very excellent TTRPG stream, let's take a step back. Cut to the like hazy cloud flashback panorama of a TV show or movie. So Kerri, what was your first exposure to tabletop role-playing games and to, and to kind of that method of storytelling?
So I have always been into film and media in general. And I've been writing since like the fourth grade. Like I would just write books in class and instead of doing my work. So writing and creating has always been something that I wanted to do. There was a long period of time where I was like, I'm going to be a director. I am going to make movies. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And all of these things eventually all made so much sense when they came together as I am going to run a TTRPG campaign.
Sure, yeah.
Like that's all of it. That's all that I wanted right there. I had never, I had heard of D&D before, but I didn't really have any concept of what exactly it was.
Sure.
Being into actors and video games and voice actors, I heard about this little thing called Critical Role.
Yeah, this
I don't know if you've ever heard
startup.
of it. I saw it on my memories. I think 4 years ago, last Thursday was my first actual D&D 5e campaign.
Ooh.
Like the beginning of it. So that's crazy. So that means it was probably about 5 years ago that I actually started playing TTRPGs in some form.
So you were vaguely familiar that D&D was a thing, and you had heard that, oh, cool, some actors are playing D&D, and then you picked up some Vox Machina. I think at that point was that still campaign 1?
Yep, that was campaign 1. Yeah.
How quickly did you go from, oh, I'm going to try this thing, to, oh, I want to do that?
I believe I was like 30 minutes into episode 1. And I was like, I need to do something like this. I was like, this is exactly what I have been wanting to do. But then it's also intimidating. You're like, okay, you look up D&D and it's like, here are 50 books. And you're like, what?
Yes.
So I was like, well, what if I just kind of run my own thing and I'll just get some dice. I'll just get one set of dice because that's how that works.
That's all you need, right?
Exactly. And I believe I bought like the 5e starter kit.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what I got. But my first campaign, I didn't even end up running 5e. Like, not really. I made my own little zombie apocalypse campaign. So we ran that for a good, I think about a year, but it was like we were playing 8 hours a day. Like we were in it. Everybody was
that was the thing that you did. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So what was it for you that immediately kind of grabbed you as like, ooh, yes, this is what I want. This is how I foresee it. This is what I'm gravitating to go from 30 minutes of watching Critical Role to 8-hour epic homebrew campaigns.
I think there are two answers to that question. Mm-hmm. On the side of it where I'm watching it and I'm consuming it, I'm looking and I'm seeing these fantastic players. Like, granted, I know they're actors, and I know everybody says like the Matt Mercer effect, but I'm like, no, the Critical Role effect, because look at those players. They're professional actors. Like, absolutely, they're going to be fantastic. So I'm watching them, and I'm watching like how Matt reacts to them and how they're intertwining like a story together. It's not just one person doing all the work. And I was like, that sounds amazing. And I was like, I want that. And I know that's a ridiculous goal to have whenever you're first diving into like this community and everything. But I was like, I need this. I need something like this. Mm-hmm. So I started, getting my friends together. There's this sense of whenever you are like first diving into this, right? Where you're all at the table and you know what you're here to do, but you're like, oh my God, am I really going to play pretend with these people? Like when you're first diving in, you're not used to that. You're all grown up, like, how are you going to sit and play pretend? So there was definitely this moment of, oh man, are we just going to be way too like embarrassed with each other to do this? Then we dove into it, and it was like just this magical puzzle pieces coming together where I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. Like, yeah, I'm writing the story, but like I've always gotten a kick out of people reading my stuff and giving me feedback. These people are playing my stuff. Yes. Like, that's absolutely insane. And it was just so satisfying. And the moment I started, I was like, okay, no, this is not just another like hobby that I pick up and put down. Like, this is it. I love this.
Yeah. This is my way of life.
Yeah, pretty much.
How long did you run that zombie apocalypse? And it was nominally at least 5e, you said?
Yeah, like we used a D20.
Yeah, I got it. Got it.
Yeah. I think it went for about a year. but that is playing like
Yeah.
at least 5 days a week. We tried to play every day unless something came up, and we played for, I feel like 5 hours is like the least amount of time we played in a day, because we would
Sheesh.
go late into the night. We did a New Year's session where we played for 13 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, like we took breaks for food, but that was it. And it happened to be like all of the most emotional moments of the game was happening in that
Yeah.
13 hours. And afterwards, I was like, I need to hug all of you. Like, what?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was rough, but it was so good. It was such a good.
I have never played that often. I've especially never DM'd that often. I am a slow, methodical DM. I like to stew in thoughts and that sort of thing. What went into you playing 5 times a week for 20 to 30 hours a week? Like, how do you prepare for that, or do you even prepare for that?
Honestly, my DMing, not strategy, but kind of has changed a lot since then, because then it was more of a story that I was writing. It helped that I knew the people I was playing with. I knew the decisions they would make before they would make them.
Yeah, got
So
it.
like there wasn't a lot of prep that I had to do. It was very this is the story that you're following, because why would you do anything else? So it was very easy for me to just write that loose story for them to fill in on the way. And I like to hyper focus and hyper fixate on things. So that story was written well before we got to those moments.
I'm sure no GM or DM or storyteller can relate to that experience of just a fever pitch of writing too much content. Nope, never done that before.
Yeah, it was just so nice to be writing again, because I wrote a lot in school, and then when I graduated, I didn't have anybody to read what I was writing, so I just kind of stopped. So finding this hobby, I was like, this is what's driving me now. Like, this is why I'm writing, and this is fantastic.
For you, is the audience, not literally, obviously we are now public facing creators, and that's a capital A audience, but the audience around the table and around your work, whether it's writing, whether it's performing, whatever, do you find that is a big kind of fuel for you?
I do, yes. I definitely care about the players more than the viewers.
Yeah.
But that's not saying like the viewers aren't important. I love hearing feedback from people who are not in Deadlands. Like,
Right.
I'm like, oh wait, you watched this? Like, you watched it? That's crazy. And then just hearing any feedback of like gratification, like, yes, that was as important as it was in your mind, because they felt that too, and that's just so great. I actually did a home 5e campaign after that zombie apocalypse one. We finished that one, and then I was like, you guys want to try like actual D&D? Like, I have some of the books now. Like, that was the 4 years ago last Thursday.
Got it.
Yeah, we finished it maybe a year ago, so that campaign went on for about 3 years. And then after that, my home group kind of fell apart a little bit, and I was like, damn, I don't have anybody to play with. Like, no, this is awful. And Jenna was actually like, you can play online. And I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know. That sounds, I don't really know. And then she's like, just try it. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And now look where we are.
Yeah, and this is your partner, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. I have roughly 400 questions around Deadlands, the Crossroads, and about its development, and about how you're running it, because it's such an interesting, unique experience, I think. But I will refrain myself from asking all of those just yet, and I will just first take that step back and say, what is Deadlands, the Crossroads? And specifically, not just the system and that kind of stuff, but the structure and the vision that you had and have for it.
Deadlands, the Crossroads it's a 14 episode story, and it's set in this alternate Wild West setting that kind of breaks from our real history in one certain part of the timeline.
Hmm.
This series has, I can say officially, 27 players have been on this screen.
Wow.
And it has an exit on death feature, which
Yes.
is, I think, kind of the selling point to a lot of people. As for system, it is the Suede system from
Okay.
Savage Worlds. And if you want to check out any other system besides 5e, like, I would recommend Suede so much.
Yeah, what is the Suede system? Because I was only a little bit familiar in kind of preparing. Like I was 0% familiar, and then got a little familiar watching you guys play, and kind of doing some research for this interview. But I had never heard of it, so I'm imagining other people may not have either.
Yeah, it was very intimidating to learn at first because I was in such a 5e mindset that I was like, this doesn't make any sense. But after the fact, I can say I like Suede more than 5e.
Gasp.
Yeah, I know, controversial. It is, you have different die types for different stats. So you can assign a D10 to your strength and a D4 to your vigor, or however you want to do that. It gives you a higher chance to succeed certain things, and that's all that it is. So the way that it scales is so fantastic because you can have your stats maxed out and still fail every single roll. Like it is very balanced, and no enemy is going to seem harder or easier against an experienced character or a new character. And that's, I just love that so much. You don't have to worry about scaling anything. It does it all for you.
Yeah, it just exists, and these are facts.
Yeah.
So yes, back to the kind of the show itself. Something that I was immediately interested in and entranced by was the huge number of guests and players that you have involved in the process, and especially obviously with deaths being permanent. But that's 27, you said, players,
Yes.
which God knows is hard enough to organize 4 players or 5 players, but 27 is a whole other thing. And this you pulled this off, getting this many people involved and this many quality people involved in your first project, your first foray into the public sphere. So where did the inspiration for the structure of your show come from? Like the not just the system, but having just random people on the internet playing, and having a rotating cast, and having deaths being permanent, and it being this setting. How can you walk me through the development process, I guess, for taking the kernel of an idea and having it germinate all the way to what it is now?
Yeah, so I saw Deadlands from Critical Role, actually. They did a Undeadwood series.
Right.
Yeah, Brian W. Foster did an amazing job, and I saw it and I was like, man, this is interesting. So, disclaimer, I'm not a Western fan.
I know. I was going to ask about that because I remember you saying that and was just like entranced by that idea.
Yeah, I'm not into Westerns. I don't like them. They're boring. And I'm like, yeah, let's run a campaign. I don't know.
Yeah, because Deadlands is just eldritch Western, basically.
Yeah.
And when you said that, like, I don't really care for Westerns, I was just like, what do you mean? And I found that so interesting. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw that and was like, man, okay, that sounds kind of cool. Like, this is Western, but it's like horror, and horror is right up my alley. It's exactly what I want to do. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'll just see who's interested. I put a little feeler out on Twitter, and everyone is interested. And
everyone.
I'm like, oh. And then so I just got to thinking, okay, how could I? Well, at the time, it was like 20 people.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Even then, and I don't remember when, I think I remember the thread even. I might have backfilled that from my memory, but immediately exploding with just like several people who were like, I'll do it. Like, sure, why not? Which was so cool.
Yeah, I had like 20 people that were interested in doing this. So then my thought process goes to, how can I have all of them? I was like, I don't want to tell anyone no here. Like, I want this to be a cool project. So I started thinking, and I'm like, looking at the system and I'm like, man, it's easy to die. Like, it is really easy to die in this system. And I'm like, okay, I think that's how I'm going to do this.
Interesting. Yeah, cool.
So that's how it all came together. Honestly, I had one scenario in mind. I was like, I want to do a train heist.
Awesome.
That's what I knew. I was like, I want to build this around a train heist. So then I started pushing the story together of, okay, why are our players after this train? What is going on here? What is going on here? And I mean, I honestly can't reveal what is going on. But at the time of this release, the train heist episode will have aired. So we can talk about that. The whole reason behind this entire campaign is episode 11. And yeah, I just wanted to throw different characters into different groups and structure a story that would push them all together towards this train. And that was it.
So did you essentially just, tell people, hey, we're starting off with this select group of people, and then everyone else kind of be on light standby, and I'll ping you when there's a seat open, aka someone has died, and then you jump in the next episode? Is that kind of how you structured it, or how did you organize all of it?
Yeah, I had 5 groups, and I just threw people into a group chat. Like, episode 1, threw them into a group chat. Episode 2, group chat. And I'm like, hey, when are we filming this? Like, this is your group. None of you know each other. None of your characters know each other. When are we doing this? Let's do it. And it just grew into that from there. And it's amazing how none of these people knew each other before Deadlands. Like, none of them. And now, like, I log on to Twitter and everybody's interacting with each other. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, there's a little corner of Twitter that is just people who have been on Deadlands, and and you have successfully gotten that to be a subgenre within subgenre, which is wonderful to see.
Yes.
So something that you mentioned, and I wanted to talk about it just because this is a story so steeped, obviously, in the setting, right, and in kind of those vibes of Westerns and of horror. And knowing that you don't have much care for the Western genre, wanted to ask you, what for you is so interesting or appealing about horror, and particularly the horror that is found in your game? Why do you connect to that as a theme or a tone?
Horror has always been my just absolute favorite genre. Like, even as a kid watching movies, I'm like, I'm not interested unless it's a horror film. Like, I love horror. It's something that I feel like I'm able to portray in a decent way, which is I was very nervous about, especially playing online, because when I have players at my physical table, I can turn off the lights. I can put like creepy candles, creepy music, like I can set that atmosphere in a different way. So the fact that I was able to give people goosebumps or freak them out over a screen where we're all perfectly lit, I feel like horror is something that I can portray decently. And I don't know if that's because I'm so interested in it. And those are always the types of movies that I've always wanted to make. I don't know why. It's just my corner. It's my thing. And and I love it.
Is there a particular kind of horror you enjoy? And it doesn't need, it can be a movie, kind of archetype, or it could be when you're sitting down to design an arc or an adventure or whatever at the tabletop. Is there a kind of a feel or genre or whatever of horror that you find yourself particularly connected to or interested in?
I feel like monster horror is the easier way to go here for many, many reasons. Like, you watch a monster horror movie, and even if it's bad, it's good. Like, it is enjoyable. And I feel like monster horror is the easiest connection to TTRPGs.
Sure.
Because, you're just creating this monster, and it's just all in your imagination, and it's not a, serial killer coming to get you. Something that's a little more real and could maybe not vibe with some of the players as it would with if it was a monster, you know. As for my personal preference, I like all horror. It does not matter. Throw zombies, aliens, monsters, slashers, whatever they are. I love horror. I love it so much. I'm actually doing Call of Cthulhu right after this. So right after Deadlands, I mean. So keeping up that horror, just creep you out kind of
brand.
Feel. Yep.
Something that I don't want to lose sight of, and something I really enjoy asking the kind of public facing creators that I talk to on here and elsewhere. You know, your partner mentioned, hey, you can just play online as a like that's an option you get to scratch your itch, and that is a large jump from that to putting out a feeler to be like, hey, who wants to just like play a thing, to having a long form, highly edited, super thematic, super unique story that is public facing, that's published, that, you know, has this like social media presence, all that kind of stuff. So was there kind of a moment that you remember, or an experience of you going from, yes, I just want to just, you know, like find people to play with, to it becoming a thing that you were spending time and blood and sweat on?
I had always said in our home games, I was like, man, I wish I could record these sessions, because I'm such an advocate for recording your sessions, even if you're not going to upload them, because you miss so much. Whether you think you're collecting all the information or not, you're not. I promise you, you are not collecting all the information. Especially as a GM, record your sessions, listen back to them, because there's going to be stuff that you are like, yes, I need to plug that in on this episode or whatever. And I've always been into recording. I even just like gaming online, I would record and I would upload my gameplay for things. We have funny moments. I would upload it to Twitter before that got taken down. So I've always been like, hey, record your work. So whenever I decided to play online, it was just no question. I was going to be recorded. There was no thought of like just playing and not recording. It was just, those were one and the same in my mind.
Going from that, of like, yep, okay, cool, I'm going to record it, I'm going to put it out, and you know, or I'm going to record it in whatever form that takes, to kind of where you are now, which is, you know, several thousand Twitter followers later, a good dozen episodes of, of Deadlands out and in the world, and, you know, already organizing new shows that you're going to be putting on and connecting with new people and all that kind of stuff. What has that experience been like for you?
It has been absolutely insane. Like looking at how long I've been doing this and how much progress I've made, I'm like, I don't really believe it at this point. Like, I'm like, yeah, it's just it'll fizzle down. Like it'll go away.
Absolutely.
So it's been crazy, especially when someone comments on one of my posts or something that was like, oh, you know, I'm only on episode 3, but this is really good. And I'm like, you're watching it? Yeah. Like, I just, I don't believe anyone but the cast is going to watch this. So hearing that other people have watched it, I'm like, wow, like, that's crazy. I put a lot of work into this. So thank you.
Yes, you do. And that's my next question. So I know at least a hunk of the amount of work that you put in to the Crossroads, and stop me if I'm wrong, but you do all the editing, you do all the sound design, you obviously do all the game design, all of the scheduling, and then also all the performing, obviously, in all the episodes of your show. Is there anything else that I'm missing, or does a list of doing all the things but playing the game as a player basically encapsulate it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, I also have to promote it, which is the hard part.
And promote it. Yes. Yes, absolutely. A whole other side project that we all have to undertake as well. But something that I'm really interested in hearing about is that you are so enmeshed in the production of this, the creation of it, and it is very singularly Kerri, right? Because you're involved in every part of it.
Yes.
And are doing every part of it. So again, what has that experience been like? But particularly in the fact that it is an extremely collaborative project up front, but then on the back end, as you're editing the videos, as you're promoting it, as you're doing all these other things, it is a very individual, personal project. So how has kind of that evolution from it being a kind of like, cool, here's us at the table making this thing, and then you kind of going off into the editing and promotion dungeon to put this all together and then put it out and then kind of be the voice and face of this project. Has that been like for you?
It's been hard, but it's been really cool. Like I've always loved editing. I would edit music videos for myself, like from a movie. Like I love editing so much. So the editing part of it, while frustrating in certain times, like when, videos get corrupted or something like that, while it can be frustrating, editing is just another huge passion of mine. So that is nothing I'm ever going to complain about. But it is also it's very, very personal, of course, going through editing, putting the sound effects, but then it's so rewarding when the players get to see it edited.
Yeah, sure.
Like that is the most rewarding part, is for the players to go, oh my gosh, like I thought it was intense when I was playing it, but now this is like a whole new treat watching it edited with music and sound effects and all of that. So it's just another round of like, while I am doing this for me, I'm doing it for me in the sense of I'm doing it for my players. Like,
yeah, well, right. Like you said earlier, that being a big driver and fuel for you, certainly. So that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I'm 100% doing this for my players, but that is giving me the satisfaction and gratification of all of the hard work.
And so how long do you usually spend putting an episode together? Because I know they're all recorded. They've been recorded for quite a while now, if I recall correctly. So what's the kind of like how much time do you spend per episode, basically?
The first few definitely took me a long time, but I'm much quicker with the editing software now. I can usually get it done, I don't know, maybe 6 hours.
You have now played not just a huge amount of hours with your two home games, but now you have played with a huge number of players who all add their own experience and perspective and priorities and all that kind of stuff, just as is the way of tabletop role-playing games. And so you, I would imagine, have had like a 3-month crash course on just like shotgunning all these different perspectives. So has playing with that many people been a particular kind of learning experience for you or a growth experience for you? Or has it now just kind of become so intrinsic that you're able to be like, yep, I can run for whoever and just kind of read the room and proceed accordingly?
I like to think that I'm a very good judge of character. Kind of a hard topic here, but a lot of people have been outed on Twitter in the past few months, and I have been, I guess, lucky enough that I was in none of those circles. I did not. I like to think that someone's first impression will tell me whether or not they're a good person, and so whenever I was casting for Deadlands, that was a huge part of it. I would say yes to everyone, but I would look at their profiles. I would see, who are you exactly? Yeah. Do you have, honestly, a huge thing is like, do you have pronouns in your bio?
Yeah, totally.
Because granted, I mean, a lot of people don't, and that's okay. But typically, if I would ask, hey, so you're going to be in Deadlands, I just need, what name you want to be credited as and your pronouns. And if anyone had a problem with that, you're not playing Deadlands. Right. Like, why?
Easy cutoff point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't have any of those issues at all. I got very lucky with this Deadlands cast, especially not knowing any of them beforehand. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah.
None of them. And I just threw them all into groups, and this is the magic that happened. And I am amazed, and I feel so lucky Every time any of this cast is like, oh, you put such a good group together, I'm like, no, you don't understand. I didn't know you. Like, I
Drew
didn't
them
know
out of
this
a
was
hat.
going to be, yeah. I just threw you together and you made this magic happen. Like, sure, I gave you the room. I gave you the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I put you in this place, but man, they need as much recognition as me, if not more at this point.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
man.
And has that added anything to your enjoyment of seeing all these groups and all these individuals coming together and just kind of playing and it kind of working out? Has that been an additionally enriching experience for you?
Yeah. One of the best compliments that I have received from this entire experience is either, Kerri, the moment I joined your table, I felt so comfortable and safe. Like that, huge one. Absolutely
Yeah,
huge, especially never playing before.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, I was nervous to play with all of these new people, but we all just vibed immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge
Absolutely.
That's a huge tell for what kind of table that I want to run.
Definitely.
And I'm so happy to know that other people are feeling as comfortable as I want them to feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that also translates, I think, very well. Like, I think that is evident in the final product that you could have easily told people, yeah, okay, we did like a quick, fun run through game, right? You know, like off stream, just to get comfortable and to get to know each other a little bit. And I think everyone would have been like, oh, cool, you can definitely tell that.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's very telling that these people, both to your credit and to their credit, were able to just kind of show up, cultivate a space that was safe and supportive and expressive, and be able to just kind of run with it from there.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit, but how would you describe your style as a storyteller and game runner? And particularly, is there a kind of design philosophy or experience philosophy or perspective that you try to focus on and keep in mind during your prep and play? You know, like I want to make sure that players get to have opportunities to do this, or I want to cultivate a mood or anything like that. You know, do you find yourself thinking about a particular like North Star that you try to follow as you're running a game?
I definitely describe my jam style as like collaborative storyteller. 100%. I want to yes and my players. I want to tell a story together rather than me putting up a story and they following they follow it. As for things that I focus on, especially diving into the horror genre, table safety, 100%. Absolutely the main priority before we dive into heavy topics, and there are plenty of them in Deadlands and Cthulhu both.
Yes,
heavy topics. I want to make sure everyone's okay. I don't want people to worry about the rules at all. That's why 90% of the cast of Deadlands did not play this system before jumping in. And I'm like, don't worry. That's not your job. That's my job. I will tell you what you need to run. We are here to tell a story together. So my main focus is the players telling their story while I guide them.
Yes.
That's it. That's the focus.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So I think a lot of us, me included, and it sounds like you included, kind of got our first little push into the tabletop role-playing game sphere by watching someone else do it. You know, and I was podcasts, you listen to Critical Role, you and a billion other people, or Critical Role or The Adventure Zone, or, you know, you name it. There are so many great shows that have introduced the hobby and kind of allowed people to get a foot in the door in it. So do you have any particular like heroes or mentors in the tabletop role-playing game experience that you're like, I learned a lot from this person, or if I'm at my best, I am doing my impression of this player or whatever, that inspired you or have been, you know, kind of big points on your journey to becoming the storyteller that you are today, or the storyteller you hope to be?
Yeah, I love Critical Role, obviously, and I think they're great for the TTRPG community, despite some people's belief.
It's a little all over the place, certainly. Yes.
yeah. I think it's great. I mean, it's exposure if nothing else. And without it, Deadlands wouldn't be a thing. So there's that. Other than that, I watched a little bit of Dimension 20. I watched a little bit of Vampire the Masquerade, LA by Night. Like, I got to see that, there are different, styles. That was my first, like, introduction into other styles, other game systems. You don't have to run a game like Matthew Mercer. You can run a game like Brennan Lee Mulligan. Like, okay, like the different styles. As for in this TTRPG space on Twitter that we kind of have pushed together, I am going to throw Paul into the ring here. PV, Table Cat Games. He helped me with, he helped me with Savage Worlds. He's been a huge supporter of Deadlands as well as a cast member. We ran a mock combat together before my first Deadlands session because I was like, I have no idea how this works. I need to figure out how combat works. So he really helped me dive into the Savage Worlds system. And yeah, I'll just plug Street Wolves here because why not?
Absolutely. Please do. Yep. I am busy plugging Street Wolves on Twitter myself. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. What's it called? Quick Start? Jump Start?
Yes.
Yeah, that released yesterday. So
yesterday as of the date of the recording. So we'll just call it early March.
Yeah, there we go. And that is so cool. I've been able to play test it, and that is absolutely awesome. Definitely inspirational for the sake of, you created your own system? What?
Yeah.
Because like definitely something I would love to dive into one day. Other than that, people I would think of as like quote heroes unquote of the space. Right. The accounts that I first talked to when I got into this space, they welcomed me with just open arms and like encouragement. Lauren Hottinger, Dungeon Glitch.
Lauren's great. Yep, Matt is great.
Severed Sons and Abyssal Brews. They are the ones that first come to mind when I first got in, and I was like seeing all these big accounts and they were interacting with me, and I was like, whoa, hello, hi, okay, cool. And then the ones that came later, like, I mean, Reckless Attack, obviously, Bards and Brews.
Thank you.
Everyone just is so welcoming, and like anyone who's not, they immediately get muted. But
right, they don't last long, basically, which is perfect and beautiful, and as it should be. Yeah,
just watching this community grow as I'm growing as well is I'm just growing along with it, and it's so cool. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Same. What goals do you have? And these could be goals just for, for yourself. It could be for your presence in the space. It could be future shows you want to do. But is there anything that you are kind of aspiring to, or things that you're interested in that you haven't done, or you want to do more of, or you want to do better, that you're kind of like, kind of have your sights set to now?
I have two main goals for 2022. I want to run 3 commissioned games, and I've done one of them so far. Ooh. I ran a game for kids, and that was super cool. And then 1,000 subscribers on my channel. I want to try to really push for this YouTube thing and see what I can do with it.
Absolutely.
Other than that, I'm living my goals. I don't know. Like it's great. I get to play constantly, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, you are very busy.
Oh yes, I am.
You always, and this is, and I know a little bit beyond the surface level, but even just at the slightly below surface level of knowledge I have of what you're doing, you are always running or planning to run or editing or posting or promoting, and you are just a whir of activity and organizing. And it's
I love it.
Super cool to see.
I thrive in the chaos.
I think you have to, and at this point, so I totally get you. So the last question that I had before kind of moving into the lightning round is, what does, now that you have been running for so long, for a huge number of people, for a huge amount of hours, when you kind of step away from a table, when do you feel good about that? You know, like when do you know that you've had a good session or a moment or whatever? You know, what kind of like lights your fire? Is there something particular that you have experienced that just really works for you?
I think there are two answers to this question too, because there are the sessions that end where you and everyone at that table knows, oh, that was a good session. Like whenever the words come out and that's where we're going to end the session, and everybody just kind of sits there and looks at each other and they're like, oh my gosh. Like those moments, so satisfying, because I'm like, I know you are feeling what I am feeling right now.
Yes.
and then there are the moments where you're not. I mean, as a GM, I'm sure you know exactly how I feel when you're like, ah, man, I didn't do as good as I wanted to today, or ah, man, I should have delivered that a little differently. And then a player texts you and they're like, hey, I had a really good time, and you're like, oh, that's wonderful.
Okay.
Like, yeah, thank your DMs, man.
Always
just thank them, because
it's just
we're always questioning ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Even when we do have that, like, and that's where we'll end the session. Perfect moment is, you know, it still is. There will almost always be a little thread that could be plucked by saying, hey, thank you. Great job.
Yeah. Just any feedback from the players is what does it for me constantly. Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, Kerri, we have now moved on to the lightning round of Reckless Talk. Exactly. And I always tell everyone that it's not really actually a lightning round. It's more of a, hey, here's a list of like 10 questions that we ask everybody. You can say your answers can be as simple as one word, or they could be launch into, you know, a whole kind of side discussion. And I will try my best not to interrupt and just let your answers stand. And you can elaborate if you want to, or I might ask you if it's something really weird and cool. But just, you know, as a nice way to get that little extra sense of who you are and what you enjoy and that kind of stuff. So are you ready, Kerri?
Perfect. I'm ready.
Okay. Question 1. Is your glass half full or half empty?
It depends on if you're filling it up or drinking it, Nathan.
Very philosophical.
I am more literal than optimistic or pessimistic.
and isn't that the perfect answer? What excites you creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Creatively, when I can piece. When stories start to piece together, like when I can connect stories to each other, to other ones that I've written. Good character concepts motivate me for sure. Just the ability to create stuff for people. That's all. I want like a good plot hook that just rips your heart out like naturally. Yeah. That's what excites me.
What does not excite you creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Crunchy mechanics, rules lawyers, people that think because they've been doing something longer, they're better. Just, you know, the negative, the people whose cup is half empty all the time.
Yes. And I will interject slightly in that I am getting ready to play in a game with you, and the amount of rules that you've already ripped out of the core system is delightful and substantial. So I can personally vouch for that, certainly.
Yeah, can't wait.
What is your favorite sound?
The only thing coming to mind right now is purring cats.
Ooh.
Yeah,
good one.
Love it.
What sound do you hate?
Oh God. Okay. I have really bad like sensory stuff. So like any cardboard scraping sounds or anything is just a huge no. Like I have goosebumps just saying the words right now. I'm like, absolutely not. Can't do it.
Same with me in styrofoam. Exact same experience.
Yeah. Nope.
What is your favorite word?
Can I curse on your show?
Yes. Fuck yeah, you can. I should have made that clearer up front that you can do cusses, so I apologize. If you'd like to retroactively edit in any...
Yeah, we need to edit in like 12 fucks throughout the entire thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
We can do that. No problem.
No, I really don't know what my favorite word is, though, honestly. I don't know if I have one. I'm sure I have one, and I'm sure it's like really cool to say, but I can't. It does not in my like everyday vocabulary, so it doesn't exist right now.
Well, what is your least favorite word?
Nobody sounds smart saying rural. I hate the word. I hate hearing it. I hate saying it. Everything about it is stupid.
And that is an example of times where I will just let that stay with no rebuttal because it is perfect. What tabletop role-playing game monster, or, obviously that can be extrapolated to different systems, whatever quote-unquote monsters are in whatever systems you're playing, have you not faced as a player or run as a storyteller game master that you would love to?
Oh man. As a player, I have yet to fight a dragon, but I don't play much 5e. I have been playing a lot recently, but it's more like Delta Green stuff. So definitely, I hope not fighting a dragon in Delta Green. You never know. So as for playing, I would love to someday, die fighting a dragon. That would be great.
Yes. Totally.
As for running, oh man, Beholder was on the list, but I ran it and I loved it so much that now I have to run it again. Beholder's just so fun. I don't know, maybe a Mind Flayer? I haven't done one of those yet. I feel like that could be kind of fun. I have ran a lot of 5e monsters, so it's hard to say. And as for other systems, I don't know them well enough yet, really, to be totally. Like, oh, yes, that monster.
Totally.
But man, Beholders, man, so good.
What is your favorite adventure of all time? And that is as open-ended of a question as you would like to make it. It could be an adventure in a movie. It could be a written adventure that you've read. It can be a homebrew one that you've run or played in. But what is your favorite adventure of all time?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, honestly, favorite adventure that I've run, Deadlands, 100%. This experience is going to set the bar for anything that I do in the future. Totally. And it is absolutely wonderful. Favorite adventure, like in media, The Mummy.
Ooh, I mean, friggin' speaking my language, man. Yeah, absolutely.
So good. So good.
What is your favorite tabletop role-playing game character of all time? And similarly, it can be one you played with, one you watched or listened to, one that you created, one you never got to play. But what is your favorite of all time?
Oh no! Do I have to pick one?
I'll allow it. You can do a bespoke collection of characters if that is what your soul brings you to.
Okay. As for NPCs, I have Cassidy from Dying Sunset, which was my original zombie campaign. Cassidy was my favorite NPC and the party's favorite NPC, and unfortunately was scripted to die.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was a death. It was a death to incite basically rage to go after the big bad. And that whole day, like, I'm at work, I'm at my real job, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing tonight, and this is terrible. I can't do it.
It will hurt me as much as I will hurt my players.
Oh, yeah, it was awful. It did its job. Trust me. They were so mad. But Cassidy's such a good one. And then I have...
R.I.P. Cassidy.
Yeah, R.I.P. Cassidy. And then Sky from my 5e campaign. She was a character that I was creating to play when I thought I would play 5e one day. Before I was like, no, I'm the forever DM.
Yep.
So that was a huge place in my heart because that was the character that I thought I was going to play. So she was lovely. She died in the final fight cinematically as well. I have a thing, apparently. I don't know.
Well, horror killing, not the main like character person. Yep. That all tracks.
Yep. As for my favorite player character I've had at my table, Willie T. Colstock, Deadlands, The Crossroads. I love Willie so much. I just
played by whom?
Played by Katie Brennan. Katie Old Lady is the username, and you should definitely oh man, her cosplays are wonderful, and Willie is just fantastic.
And what episodes is Willie in?
Willie is in episode 2,
Well, I guess we can't say too much.
Yeah, not too much.
You can start seeing Willie's story in episode 2.
Yeah, episode 2. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
So the final question that I have for you, Kerri, what gives you hope?
Honestly, the world is trash, but the support that this TTRPG community gives to each other, like I wouldn't even think that I could one day do TTRPG work full time if it wasn't for the constant support that people give each other. It's not even just, oh, that's my friend, I'm going to support them. Yeah. Everyone supports each other in this little corner of the world, and I love this place. I love it. Perfect.
Kerri, you have successfully run the Reckless Attack Gauntlet. Congratulations.
Whoa.
Your finisher medal will be sent to you in the mail shortly. But for having done so, please, once again, tell everyone who you are, where they can find you, where they can find your games and your content, and whatever other fun plugs that you would like to make.
Yeah, Kerri Smith 2012 on Twitter, YouTube, Discord. You can hop into my Discord. We talk about some really fun things in there. Kerri Smith 2012. That's pretty much my handle everywhere. You can find my link tree that way too if I've missed any other ones. But Deadlands, the Crossroads. The players deserve for you to check this out.
Kerri, thank you so friggin' much for your time and for all of your excellence in all things. And it was a lovely chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Bye.